Right, and welcome everybody to the underground sound of Boston radio. You are listening to the FrameCAST. And in today's very special episode, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce to you guys a personal friend of mine, Samuel Ricot. He is the director and writer behind Showtime Ruler. How are you doing, Sam?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me on. And I'm holding up, doing well. How about you?
Oh boy, I actually just came, you were telling me earlier about how you also had a long day on set. I also just came back from a long day on set. I was working on the set of Joan.
Yeah,
We're doing a lot of reshoots this weekend and some additional pickups for some of season 2. And of course, you've been working on Showtime Ruler and
yeah,
another production. I was wondering
many.
if you feel comfortable. I'm curious, what was that about?
Well, today was I was on the rundown. I was being interviewed on the rundown as well, for work that I've done for EIV. So I was on an M-Chan show to talk about a thing that I did for EIV, which is very ironic.
Yeah.
But a lot of fun, and I've been on multiple productions. As you know, I'm kind of everywhere all at once.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Oh my god. Yeah. I actually did a video essay about that movie, and my god. Like, from the looks of where I'm standing, I totally believe it, bro. I believe that there's a bunch of Samuel Ricos running around there. Because, like, with the stuff you do, you hold down the fort in the Tufty studio. You're working on Showtime Ruler. You're doing stuff at the Rundown. What are some other projects that you've worked on since you've come to Emerson?
Well, so much. I used to do like 9 projects a semester, which was crazy. I'm only just now started to kind of simmer down. But this semester alone, I was the director for Human Solution, which was NBS's like their spring narrative film. I director of Rusi Daisy, which is an Emerson Channel like children's show. I did stunt coordination on Nightlife. And last semester I was the script supervisor, and I also acted a little bit in The Sundowner. I do a ton. So many shows that I almost can't even remember the names of them at this point. But the main thing this time around has in fact been Showtime Ruler.
Yeah, and I'm curious, for the uninitiated, what is Showtime Ruler about?
So Showtime Ruler is a 20-minute short film that serves as a warning and a love letter to creatives, and it focuses on a daredevil magician by the name of Joshua Evermore, who is in such love with his craft and his art that he goes almost to a point of insanity. And every single trick he performs, he physically, quote unquote, dies, and he comes face to face with the Grim Reaper, and he cheats death over and over and over again to keep coming back to life and to keep doing his tricks. But as he does this, he pushes away the people that he loves, and he pushes them away from himself. He pushes them out. So he slowly starts to lose the reason why he was doing all of this in the first place. And the film comes to a close with the Grim Reaper killing one of Joshua's side. So either Joshua Evermore, the person, or Count Vivo, the magician persona that he takes up. And it is up to this audience to decide which one of them ultimately died.
Wow, that's actually really deep. So I'm curious, where did this idea come from, and what was a particular moment that sparked your interest in the story?
For me, as a director and as a filmmaker, I owe a lot to music. Songs, almost all of my ideas come from songs, and this movie is named after the song that inspired it. The song "Showtime Ruler" by Karasu Sabo, which is actually a Vocaloid song for those who like Vocaloid out there, because I'm sure there's a ton of you. Sung by Kagami Ren, which is like a voice bank. And written by Karasu Sabo. That's about just the joys of putting on a show and having all of like everybody's attention and the hype turned towards you. And it's also inspired by a couple of other songs as well, kind of mixing in and putting in not like a little bit of Showtime Ruler in songs like Don't Stop by Spaghetti Julie, a jazz band, and a lot of just a ton of these songs coming together and making into this one idea. And I guess the big moment for Showtime Ruler that really kind of brought this idea to life was I was watching like this kind of YouTube documentary about Harry Houdini and the tricks that he went through, and I had just taught about like we all we see is this hype and this joy and this like, oh my god, he's doing these insane things. But what is going on in the background of the brain of someone whose job is to risk their life? And that's kind of where Showtime Ruler came out of, both that high energy wanting to put on a show and understanding what it takes to put on a show.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I'm curious, I mean, I've read your story, and I think it's really cool. But for those who don't know, who were some of the key players in this world? And there's one key player that I really love, and I think the audience will really like.
Yeah, so there's four main characters. There's obviously Joshua, or Joshua Evermore, who is our main character. He's our main lead. You follow him as he goes from performing silly little card tricks in a comedy club to having a grand stage where he takes on his persona, Count Vivo, who in the script is treated as a separate character to Joshua. And you also meet Joshua's fiance, and by the end of the script, his wife, Stacy Evermore, as well as Joshua's former roommate, Travis, who also ends up working for Josh once he takes on the Count Vivo stage name. And of course, the most important character in the script, the Grim Reaper himself, who Joshua Evermore speaks to every single time he goes to limbo, or every time he dies and goes to the space between life and death. He speaks to the Grim Reaper, and the Grim Reaper is quite frankly tired of him, and they have many lovely interactions that were totally a ton of fun to write.
Yeah, and I'm curious about Death as a character. He was one of the key characters I was talking about earlier, ladies and gentlemen, who I'm really excited to see because I just love the idea of having Death be portrayed as a villain, because he's been portrayed throughout media in so many different ways, like from the Seventh Seal to Puss in Boots. Like, there are just so many interesting ways you can handle Death. And like, from what I've seen in your script, he's very cynical, kind of bored. Yeah, and I like that his presence. He is an active and threatening antagonist, but he's also a force of nature. Like, you're kind of meant to think of him as a metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
Did you kind of intend Death to be more metaphorical than a straight up slasher movie villain?
Yeah, so Death in this film is his character is almost based less off of traditional perceptions of the Grim Reaper and more based on Greek mythology with Charon the ferryman, who brings people's souls to Tartarus. And he is kind of a mix of that combined with a really, really tired corporate boss. The Grim Reaper in this story is an almost omnipotent being who is well aware and knows everything. He knows that when someone comes into his domain, they will die one way or the other. And he knows that Joshua, or Count Vivo, is just wasting time and delaying his inevitable death. So the Grim Reaper is less of an active force in threat and more of the metaphor of the ticking clock that is always above Count Vivo. As the first time that Vivo steps foot into Death's domain, his fate has been sealed. There is absolutely no escaping it, and the rest of the film is just counting down to what the audience and what the Grim Reaper knows is the inevitable. So the Grim Reaper, to pass this time, is a very cynical, sarcastic, and almost humorous character. But he is a force of nature more than he is a person who is actively out to kill Vivo. There's nothing that you can do to escape death, as many times as many humans have tried throughout history. So he has this aura and this air around him that sometimes is physically represented in the story through the use of fog, where he has total control over his space. He knows everything that goes on in his space. And a huge symbol that's attached to the Grim Reaper is the red string of faith that is often seen at his desk or tied around his scythe, to show that he's tied to Joshua, and Joshua cannot escape him, just the same way as time will tick on forevermore.
Wow. I like that. Forevermore, evermore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. I wonder where that last name came from.
Evermore is a name that came to me in a dream, quite actually.
Oh really?
Yes. None of the characters had last names.
That was one Showtime board thing I've heard.
Yeah.
You say.
Yeah, it just came to me in a dream. And I woke up and I was like, oh my God, Joshua Evermore. And his name used to be James too. He didn't used to be called Joshua. So this name was quite bestowed upon me to give this character, and I think it fits quite well.
Yeah. I remember, like, Sam, you and we have a media criticism class, and I believe earlier on you were talking about how important the soundtrack is,
Yes.
and it's a crucial part because you've like attached it to all of our crew. Every one of us gets a unique song,
Hmm.
and I'm curious, like for you personally, what when you were writing this story, what if you could pick out two songs aside from Showtime Ruler that really exemplify the tone of the film, what would they be?
Oh, that is an amazing question. I think one song would have to be Outsider by Japanese artist Eve. That is a song about the people who quote unquote live outside of the social norm. And outside of the social norm doesn't mean necessarily being like under it. There are people who live outside of us who are above us, like how we look at celebrities and how we view famous or like extremely talented people. So people who live outside of the normal bounds. And for a second song, I would have to say that really exemplifies the tone of this film. That's an amazing question. Um, I think, hmm, now going back and thinking on it, a song that I honestly ended up listening to a lot when I was going through the script and writing this is "Crazy on You" by Heart. And while its tone is a lot more upbeat and almost a lot happier than Showtime Ruler itself is, that main core of that song is about it's about being so in tune with something that you are seen as insane, that you are seen as an outsider, that you are seen as outside. And while that example of this isn't love for another person, it's love for his art. Those two songs kind of really exemplify both the vibe and the theme of what Showtime Ruler is about a lot.
Yeah, wow, those are amazing songs. I'll definitely have to listen to those. Yeah, and aside from music, and because you're stepping into the role of a director, those are massive shoes to fill. I'm curious if you had any personal directorial influences when designing the vision for the story, taking it from the script to actually finding your cinematographers, finding the right crew, and everyone.
Yeah, so Showtime Ruler is not my first directed film. I've been directing for a while. I come from multiple different places within the media industry. I used to make music. I used to also animate. And now I've gotten a very heavily into the field of like stunt coordination. And I've acted before, so my directorial vision covers and encapsulates a lot of different things.
And he's
Um,
on stand-up, folks.
Yes, I do. I do stand up, among other things. But when I'm directing, animation is actually the medium that I've worked the most extensively in. And as an animator myself, and consuming so much animated media, when I visualize my stories in the medium of animation. And a unique part of the process for me as a director is taking this from the medium of animation, how I envision it, and transforming and encapsulating that into a really hi-fi like live action real life frame and vision. So when I talk to my cinematographers, they often expect things like low dramatic lighting or things that you often see in student films from me. And I'm not like that at all. I am extremely particular about all of my films being this almost more similar to like what you would see in a blockbuster animated film with all of this unique and so many different things. We kind of detach from reality. The genre that I work the most in is magical realism. I love to represent the natural through the supernatural. That's almost my creed as a director. So taking this from the script and taking it out of the animated frame and working and finding a cinematographer who's willing to put up with each and every single request that I have and who's willing to bounce off me just as much as I bounce and send ideas towards them. Collecting a crew is definitely like one of the most important jobs that you can do as a director. If you're happy to work with them, they'll be happy to work with you, and that matters the most even before talent and skill because that can be grown on set. Your job is to find people who you mesh with, who mesh with you, and who will mesh together well.
Yeah, and on top, that was a lot. That was, but that was amazing stuff there, Sam. And one thing that like can I be honest? Like the one thing that I see with you that I don't really see with a lot of other student films is that you're not afraid to be bold. You're not afraid to do risky things. I remember once you were telling me about how, like, for you've done on coordination on a bunch of other films, and how a lot of times you were disappointed at how basic everything was. It was just casual pushing, and you weren't afraid to try and be like, no, you know what? Let's do a tumble down the stairs.
Yeah.
Let's do something a bit more big. Let's use the medium of filmmaking to exemplify our the medium to tell the message.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, do you hope that other students like go into something like stunt coordination? Speaking of which, because the Oscars have just added the
stunt design, yes.
stunt design and stunt team to the academy. Do you hope that this encourages students to be more bold with their ideas? Do you?
Yeah. Even like taking from my work as a stunt coordinator, I the basic pushing, the basic one-handed throw, it all makes sense for student filmmakers because a huge part of student filmmaking is scope control. If you don't learn scope control early, it's going to come and it's going to bite you in the butt later on. So once a lot of student filmmakers learn that, hey, I can't have a huge scope, they'll stay at a small scope. And they'll do everything that they can in that small scope very effectively, but they won't start to grow that scope with each film, you know? You should start small, but you shouldn't stay small. You should keep growing bigger and bigger and bigger. And Showtime Ruler is a really ambitious project with 7 different locations. Each character had more than like 3 costumes that were being swapped out. We had some stunts, we had some falls, we had a lot of exterior and different interior shots. We had some insane lighting setups and camera setups. We even got onto Shitty Rigs, the Instagram account with one of our setups. I do hope that this encourages Emerson students to realize that their projects don't have to be ambitious only in terms of like narrative. You should be ambitious and you should tell a great and big story within your script. But you should also branch out. That location that you saw one time that you really wanted to film there, reach out to them. And if they say no, reach out again. If they say no, reach out again, you know? Keep just hammering away at things and growing it bigger and bigger. Because once you get out of Emerson, you only really want to go up. You don't want to stay at a student filmmaker level. And on the topic of stunt design, please get into stunts. It's really fun and it's really amazing. And I'll be starting a stunt design club next semester, which needless plug, but yes.
Yeah, and aside from that, I'm curious. You've mentioned like 15 million things that with this project that sounds so difficult, from like just organizing locations, organizing places where cast to meet up, to even the basic stunts. What was out of all those things, what was for you personally the hardest aspect of working on this film?
The hardest aspect of working on this film most definitely had to be the pre-production, the 9th hour, so to speak. Every single film will have this where just before filming, everything will go wrong. And for Showtime Ruler, our 9th hour was extremely rough. We had almost every single location fall through. We had equipment fall through. We had people start to pull out. And on a lot of sets, especially if you're on a smaller scale, these are things that you can kind of handle relatively easily. You can replace people and you can just call, like, reconfirm a location, or you can find a new location. Especially if, like, for your script, the location doesn't matter a ton. But with Showtime Ruler, where everything was so big and so deliberate, if we lost one thing, we had to get it back. And we also had like this huge issue with Showtime Ruler where one of our main locations, a home, had a cat in it, and our main actress was allergic to cats, so she couldn't be on set. And that's when the tough decisions come through, where it's like I had to scramble, and I only had 3 days to either find a new location, or I had to recast and go through re-rehearsals with a new actress. And then I ended up getting a new actress and having to go through with that. So making those really tough decisions and recovering during the 9th hour, because it'll really beat you down. Like, even if you get through the 9th hour, you still got to get on set and you still got to direct your film and keep everybody together, and you got to keep a smile on your faces if nothing is going wrong, because your role as the director is to lead the people and let them know that, hey, we got everything figured out. It's going to be an amazing production. So definitely him handling the ninth hour with such a big project was the scariest part of Showtime Roller.
Yeah, and it was, and during those difficult months, during those difficult times where it can feel like so much, where it was like as a director where so many people are relying on you. It's always important to have a strong cohort of producers. And I'm curious, were there any friends or people that you knew that you relied on, and what was the best advice that they gave you during this production?
I am lucky to have an amazing producing team. I don't do the standard like two or three Emerson like EPs on a project for film projects. I know very much that I want to be a director, and while the multi-credited role of like director, producer, writer is becoming more common, I try to separate myself from producing as much as possible. So I hire four producers, four EPs, and then like three associate producers, and then two actual producers for each project. So my producing team is almost always a team of 10 getting everything together, and I delegate tasks and I delegate roles off, and I still kind of fit in the role of a creative VP. But amongst my producers, everybody was amazing. But standouts like Juana Serrano, who was our logistical and tech EP, and Oscar Grublek, who was one of our producers, really helped to bring this set and make it happen together. Juana has donated a lot of equipment, and he even came during our first day and he cooked crafty for the entire crew. Oscar was amazing and helped us lock in a ton of locations. The producers were really receptive, and they were there to support me, and just remind me when I felt like that this is such an ambitious project. I'm doing so much. I can't manage all of this. To remind me that like you had a vision, you're here, and you're going to do it, which is absolutely just kind of the best advice that you can get. While I do love the support, hearing you can do it and you will do it, being told that like I'm going to do it, that it's gonna happen, and no matter what, it will happen, is extremely motivating, and it just really pushes me up because it reminds me that I'm here for a reason, and I'm never gonna give up on this project. I'm gonna make it happen, and it happens.
Yeah, I'm curious, like, were there any creative disagreements that you had with your producers or any of your cast and crew or anything like that?
Not really. Surprisingly, which it's very common on sets to have differences between producers and actors and the director. I feel my creative vision was extremely strong and extremely clear. I put out a director's statement, first thing before I even hired anyone, that told everybody what my creative vision for this film was, why I made this film, and why it is the way that it is. And if you got on the project, then it means you were aware of my director's statement and you're aware of what I wanted to do. And I worked extremely closely in pre-production with almost everybody, with like sound and the cam team, and lighting. And I tell them this is the mood that I want to create. And I hold extensive rehearsals with my actors, because I'm very particular about my blocking and facial expressions and how things are supposed to be. And I'm still open to collaboration. There are certain lines in the script and certain actions that were dropped or replaced with something else that the actors who got really into their characters felt that their characters would do more. And it's that mix of like, I was really in tune with my creative vision, and I was lucky to be on a set where everybody else was also in tune with my creative vision, and all changes that came from it were not in opposition but to improve what was already there.
Wow, that's really beautiful. Many people can only dream to have such a beautifully synchronized and such a collaborative team that really has trust in your vision, and and I feel like they have that trust because you are so bold about your vision. Sorry, sorry. Yeah. I'm curious. Like, for you in your personal life, like when it's just like whether it's just coming up with creative ideas or working on a project, how do you know when something's done, or at least done enough for which you can feel satisfied?
Never really. That's just it. Even when every single one of my films is like recorded, it goes through post production, it's done, and it's out in the world. To me, it'll never be done. because I'll always look back at it and I'll be like, oh, we could have done this here, or we could have done this here, or we could have extended this or done that. But me wanting to do more with every single project is just a sign of growth in my eyes, and it doesn't mean that I'm not satisfied with the end project. No project ever has an end for me. I know that like next year I'm still going to be talking about Showtime Ruler, what I learned for it, and what I'm going to do better on my next set. Every single project doesn't really have an end date. It just has this peg, like a puzzle piece at the end, where I can stick on the next project and keep continuing my story. Because every single thing that I direct is a little piece of me that I'm building up and building up and building up. Not to any end, because creatively I will never be defunct. I will just keep growing until maybe I want to switch mediums, or I want to do something else, or I want to express my creativity in a different fashion. But it's never going to stop. So no project is ever really done. All projects are just part of the greater project that is me being me. And that's not a project that's gonna stop until like my very last day. So everything is all just part of this one big stream.
Yeah, I feel you, bro. Especially like, I relate to your aspect about wanting to, like not feeling comfortable in one particular box. Like, I do have a YouTube channel where I have made short films, but this semester I've been, experimenting with podcasting, trying to, do something new, mainly because I never, I guess it could be because of my past moving around so much as a kid and, being in so many different environments and never really uh, having the time to, you know, properly adapt to one environment. Always feeling like I've got one foot in one land and one foot in the other. I guess it feels like part of that restlessness is why we're so attracted to stories. Why we seek to create things and seek to make things. It's mainly to find a place in our world.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm curious, like, if you could steal one skill or one trait from any of your characters or in any of your movies, including Showtime Ruler, what would it be?
Oh God. Okay. If it were specifically Showtime Ruler, I would steal the Grim Reaper's ability to simply appear. The ability, since I'm everywhere at all at once, the Grim Reaper's ability to simply manifest himself into a space is something that would be amazing. We live in Boston. The tea is great, but the tea also sucks. And the ability to kind of manifest myself anywhere would be a dream come true. But in my wider array of films and films that I've already made, I have a character called Xavier from an early animated film that I did, where he had the ability to put on these like pair of goggles, and they just allowed him to visually see what somebody was feeling. So it wasn't like reading their thoughts or anything. He almost just saw an aura that was attached to these people, and it allowed him to engage in conversations with them more easily, and to understand and slowly dig out their true feelings. Which is something that I would love to do because I love talking to people. A ton of my ideas also come from talking to other people around me. Films are amazing, but sometimes the most interesting things about our lives are the people that are like we pass by on the street and we give no mind to. So being able to see kind of people's auras, I suppose, and talk to them and kind of dig out what that causes and see like, you know what, I could make a documentary about you, and I'm just not going to tell you about it. Is would be an amazing thing. And I'd steal it from Xavier in the blink of an eye.
Oh, hey, I mean that's not a bad trait to have.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had the Grim Reaper's abilities, I would be probably a little bit scared.
Yeah, yeah.
Just imagine like you appearing everywhere. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, that would make you a very powerful director.
It would.
Yeah. I mean, just imagine you popping in. You could control like 5 film sets at once.
And it'd be amazing.
Yeah. I'm curious though, like, for your general creative process, what's a creative red? Is there any, or do you ever have any creative red flags that, or when you see something that instantly makes you go, nope, I want to avoid that, or is nothing ever off topic for you? Are you open to exploring anything?
I am open to exploring any topic, just so long as the topic that I am exploring is something that I have personally actively gone through, or it's something that I personally want to go through as I create the film. I think that as creatives and directors, we have a responsibility to, if you're going to make a film about an experience or about something that you have not gone through or that is detached from you, you must you must speak to and have people who have been through that experience in the room when you go through the process of creatively making that film. Um, there is a beautiful film that was made last semester called Where the Marigolds Grow, which a lot of my friends previously worked on. That is about female victims of like SA, and it shows it in an extremely beautiful way, where only victims themselves could visualize and put this to screen. And if I were to make a film like that, since it's not an experience that I have directly gone through, it means that part of my experience, part of my writing of this screenplay would have to include me sitting down and talking to every person that I can find to build a more solid logical understanding of what I'm talking about before I apply my creativity over to it like it's paint. You need a solid canvas to make good art, and that part of that solid canvas is talking to people. So I'm open to discussing everything. There's no creative red flags for me. It's just a matter of going around and making sure that I pick up enough information to turn that red flag green before I start to produce my film.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because what you said reminded me of something like actually from our class, because I think it was something our classmates said about how a lot of how some, like, for example, like a lot of white creatives avoid like making stories about people of color, mainly because they haven't gone through those experiences, or about like people of color making movies about other people of color or different ethnicities. So, and I think that the main reason they avoid it is because of fear of offending a particular group. And I'm curious about your perspective on that.
Um, if you want to make a film about the black experience and you are not black, make a film about the black experience, and your writer's room should be all black. It's film is a collaborative medium, and you can never expect to know about an experience or to know everything about a topic without the input of others. If you are afraid of offending someone, bring that someone into the room, see what offends them, see what they appreciate, and gather their thoughts about it. I feel a bigger issue comes from when we allow people not of a culture or people not of a group to dominate discussion about the group. So like if white filmmakers make films about black people or other people of color, and then we only end up watching films by white filmmakers about these groups, even if they are constantly doing everything in their due diligence to like get black people into the room or get people of color in the room to talk about it, you need to give attention to the people of color or marginalized groups that are creating things themselves. So learning as an audience to balance your view and learning as a creator to abandon that fear and to bring other people into the room.
Yeah, yeah, feel like you're right. And I'm curious also, how has working on Showtime Ruler changed you personally, and what have you learned from this experience as a creative, as a storyteller, or just even as a person? Honestly, just trying to make something cool.
Um, well, besides making me exponentially tired, Showtime Ruler it's a warning against creatives and like overly ambitious creatives, and I am an over ambitious creative. So this film is a warning to people like me. So I got to direct an almost a direct message to myself, because I often work myself to exhaustion. And for Showtime Ruler, I stayed up for 42 hours straight working on that film, set day to set day. And it was a reminder that while you have that passion and ambition, some of the best moments will come when you get to sit back, enjoy your product with the people who helped you to make it, and realize that you labored so hard, not for an end result and not an end product, but you created a work of art. and you get to sit back and enjoy that work of art and stop thinking of it as a product, or stop thinking about the next work of art that you're going to do, to create that space in that moment to enjoy something with the people who care about it and who care about you. So I've learned that next semester, no more 9 films per semester. We're gonna focus our attention on a couple of small things and on ourselves, and kind of like really grow it from there.
Yeah, I think that that's an amazing note to leave off on. I'm curious, like, do you have any plans for screening Showtime Ruler, and how can the audience learn about it?
Yeah, you can follow the Showtime Ruler Instagram. It is Showtime Ruler underscore film. And we plan to screen here at Emerson, hopefully in October, and we will also be screening at the Harvard Square Comedy Club, or the comedy studio at Harvard Square, which was one of our locations. They have kindly offered to host the screening for us as there as well, and we'll also be going through film circuits before we have our big old screening, where everybody can really see it. So be on the lookout for us at film festivals and at the Harvard Comedy Studio.
All right, folks. That's where you can watch Showtime Ruler. Please follow Samuel Ricot on Instagram, and follow the Showtime Ruler Instagram account to learn more about this production. It's great having you on board, Sam.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, peace out, Boston. Have a good night, and go enjoy yourselves. The weather's actually getting much better, so yeah, have a good night, Boston.